Tenant below. Story 1. I moved into the unit on the 3rd floor in cheap rent, newly renovated, and most importantly, the landlord was a little too eager to sign the lease, but I chalked that up to desperation. The apartment was clean, bright, and aside from the faint smell of bleach in the hallway, it seemed fine. The first 2 weeks were blissfully uneventful. I worked nights at a hospital downtown, so I mostly slept during the day, until the noises started and began with a faint dragging sound. Just after 3 a.m. at first, I assumed it was upstairs someone shifting furniture or dropping something, but it kept happening, always at the same time, always from below. On the 3rd night, I realized the floor was vibrating barely, but enough that my lamp buzzed against the nightstand. It sounded like something was being scraped slowly across tile, metal on concrete. The next morning, I asked the landlord if someone had moved into the unit below mine.
"Oh, to be,"
he said, then paused a beat too long. No, still empty. I mentioned the noise, and he waved it off. Pipes building's old, but the sounds weren't plumbing. This was deliberate, rhythmic, and getting louder. By the 5th night, I couldn't sleep. The dragging had evolved into banging like fists against walls. One night, I put my ear to the floor and froze. I could hear breathing and something else, a voice, lower, repeating the same phrase in a garbled loop. "Let me out, let me out, let me out." I backed away and called the landlord again. This time, I recorded the audio and emailed it to her. No reply. I considered calling the cops. But what would I say? Someone's haunting the apartment below mine. It would sound like a prank. I decided to check it out myself. At 3:02 a.m., I went downstairs with a flashlight and knocked on the door to be. No answer. I put my ear against the wood. Silence. Then click. The door creaked open. Just an inch. I looked inside. The unit was completely empty, no furniture, no curtains, nothing. But the bleach smell hit me hard this time. It wasn't just bleach. It was decayed, covered up. I stepped inside. My flashlight flickered. The floor was stained, not blood. Something darker, old, soaked into the grout, and the walls every surface were covered in deep gouges like claw marks. Then I saw it, in the corner of the room, where the shadows bent too sharply. Something was moving. A hand, thin, pale, fingers broken backward like twigs. It crawled forward, then a second hand, and the voice again, "Let me out." I ran up the stairs, into my apartment, slammed the door. I didn't sleep the next morning. To be was padlocked. A metal security door had been installed overnight. No sign of the stains. No hand. I moved out 2 days later, didn't break the lease. Didn't ask for my deposit, didn't want to know. But 2 weeks after I left, I checked the rental listing out of morbid curiosity. Unit to be, newly available. Previous tenant passed peacefully in sleep. Previous tenant, there was never supposed to be anyone below me. But something died there. And something stayed. Watched Mode Story 2 when the first break-in happened down the street. I didn't think much of it. Just a neighbor's garage door left open overnight. The second one, I bought a camera, nothing fancy, just a smart doorbell with motion detection and live alerts. It worked at first. Every ping gave me a little jolt of satisfaction. A package being delivered, a cat walking by, a car passing in the night. The camera was my third eye, watching the one spot I couldn't while I slept. After a week, I noticed something strange. Every night, exactly to 13 a.m., the camera would alert me. Motion detected, always the same frame. Nothing but the porch. No person, no package, just the faint sway of the porch light. At first I assumed wind or shadows. Then I noticed the light didn't sway. It flickered once. On the exact second the alert was triggered, I checked the footage dozens of times. There was no one there. Until there was. 2 weeks in, the alert came like usual. 2:13 a.m. I opened the app, already expecting nothing. But this time, there was a person only visible for a single frame. No movement, just there. Frozen, tall, thin, wearing a long coat, face obscured by the angle. Standing just inches from the lens. Too close. No way they wouldn't have triggered motion before. No footsteps, no approach, just there. The next frame, Garner sat up in bed, sweating. Checked the front door, locked. Then the camera pinged again. Motion detected. Front porch due 14 a.m. Motion detected. This time no one, but the porch light flickered again, just once. I called the company. They said it was likely a glitch. Network lag, maybe a corrupted time stamp. Update the firmware, they said. I did. For 3 nights, nothing happened then. It came back. 2:13 a.m. motion detected. No person, just the flicker. Again, I turned on the live feed. Sat watching it for 20 minutes, nothing. I was about to turn it off when the feed glitched. For a split second, the face of the man flashed back close enough to fog the lens. Then static, then normal again. I disconnected the camera, uninstalled the app, but I didn't sleep. That morning, when I stepped outside, I noticed something etched into the wood of the porch below the camera mount. I didn't report it, didn't tell anyone. I figured maybe it was already there, and I never noticed. I was wrong. 2 nights later, it wasn't the doorbell camera that pinged. It was my phone. A new app had appeared. Watch mode active. I never installed it, no icon to delete it, just a feed, but not from the doorbell, from inside my house. It showed the hallway, my bedroom, the living room, all in night vision, as if someone had set up cameras while I slept, or had been watching long before. I checked every inch of the apartment, nothing, no devices, no hidden lenses, but the app worked. It showed angles that shouldn't exist, like it was remembering my movements, as if it was learning my space. At 2:30 a.m. the feed changed. The man was back. Inside now, in the hallway, not moving, not facing the camera, just there, waiting. Then the screen went black. Watch mode offload, my phone buzzed one final time. No camera can save you now. She remembers me wrong. Story 3, my mother didn't recognize me anymore. The doctors said it was Alzheimer's. Mid-stage, she knew her own name. But everything else was a shuffle of fog and misplaced time. Most days she thought we still lived in the old farmhouse. Other days she didn't think I was her son at all. I moved in when she started forgetting to eat. It was supposed to be temporary, just until we could find a full-time caregiver. The first week was mostly manageable. She'd talk to the hallway like someone was standing there. Sometimes she asked me when my brother was coming home. I'm an only child. The first time she looked at me with that strange smile, I thought she was just confused. "You're not the first, Daniel," she said. I laughed, trying to lighten it. "There's only one of me." "Ma." She didn't respond, just kept staring. That night, she left her room and stood outside my door for an hour. I didn't know until I reviewed the baby monitor footage I'd installed for safety. She never knocked, just stood there, staring, whispering. When I asked her the next morning, she said, "I wanted to see which version you were." I asked what she meant. She smiled. "The real one always has a scar under his jaw. From the swing set, I do have a scar there. From when I was 9, but I'd never told her. She wasn't home when it happened, she was still at work. It was my babysitter who took me to the clinic. My mom never knew, I'm sure of it. When I pressed her, she got agitated. Started mumbling things like he keeps coming back, and the third one screamed too much. I blamed the meds. Until I found the photo, tucked between the pages of a Bible on the nightstand. It was old faded, a black and white Polaroid of a boy who looked exactly like me but not quite. Hair slightly longer, freckles I never had, standing in front of our old barn with the date scribbled on the bottom. But I've never seen this photo before in my life. I flipped it over, written in pen. Daniel 2, quiet 1. I stared at it for a long time. That night I woke to the sound of my mother sobbing in the living room. I found her crouched by the fireplace, clutching a bundle of burnt cloth. She looked up and said, "I couldn't keep any of them, but maybe you'll stay." "What are you talking about?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The first one ran. The second one burned. The third one drowned, but you came back. I didn't sleep." I called her doctor the next morning and requested a psych eval. They said memory disorders could cause vivid confabulations, especially around trauma. I told myself that's all this was, just broken memories stitching together something eerie from old fears, until she gave me the key. "This is for the drawer," she said calmly. "The one with the tapes." "What tapes?" She didn't answer. I searched the house for over an hour before I found the drawer. Inside were 3 cassette tapes, all labeled Daniel 1, Daniel 2, Daniel 3, and a 4th tape, Daniel 4, in progress. I haven't played them. I don't know if I want to, but every night she hums a lullaby I don't recognize. And every night she smiles that same smile and says the same thing. "You're the last one. Don't make the same mistake the others did." Discharged. Story 4, I don't remember checking into the hospital. One moment I was in my apartment with chest pain, and the next I was waking up in a private room with the lights dimmed and a tight bandage wrapped around my torso. A nurse walked in before I could call out. Pale scrubs, no name tag. She smiled too wide, like someone trying to imitate a smile from a memory. "Glad you're awake," she said. "Voice too soft. You came through the procedure fine." "What procedure?" I asked. She blinked. "Standard workup, you'll be discharged soon." I tried to sit up, but my body felt heavy, numb, like I was full of sand. Outside the window it was night, but the sky wasn't right. Not dark, but pale gray, like the light before a storm. I looked for my phone, my clothes, nothing. "When can I talk to the doctor?" I asked. She tilted her head. Soon, then she left. No clipboard, no explanation. Hours passed. No food, no water. Just the same repeating pattern of footsteps in the hallway and soft chimes through the speakers overhead. Tones that didn't sound like any code I recognized. Not alarms, just patterns. At some point, I drifted off. When I woke, the door was cracked open. I stepped into the hallway and stopped. Every room had its door slightly ajar, lights flickering. No voices, no nurses, just silence. I walked to the nurse's station. It was empty. The monitors were on, but the screens displayed only static. Down the hall, I heard a gurney wheel squeal against tile. I called out hello. No response. Just the faint sound of breathing. Not mine, not nearby, but heavier, echoing like it was coming through the walls. I turned back to my room, but the number on the door had changed. From 312 to 314, I checked the next door over. 339 Bean and 312. I was sure of it, but now number 312 existed. Just a blank space between doors. I kept walking. Eventually, I reached the elevator. The buttons were on. Just a single option. Down, I pressed it, nothing happened. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, wet, like bare feet on tile. Coming up from the stairwell, I backed away. The intercom crackled. Code gray discharge required. I ran down the hall, back to the nurse's station. That's when I saw it. A figure tall in hospital whites, soaked through with something dark, face wrapped in gauze. No eyes, no mouth. It didn't walk. It drifted. Each light it passed shorted out with a pop. It turned toward me. I felt it, like pressure behind my eyes, like a scream in my throat I couldn't release. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in the same bed. Lights dimmed, door closed. Except now, I had an ID bracelet on my wrist. Unknown dog. Status, pending discharge. On the nightstand was a discharge form, already signed in handwriting that looked like mine. At the bottom, one line. By leaving this facility, you acknowledge the procedure is incomplete. I tried ripping it up. It reappeared the next morning. So did the nurse. Same smile, same silence. I asked, "What did you do to me?" She leaned in. "You didn't make it, Mr. Lane. But sometimes, patients don't accept that." I screamed. She didn't blink. "You've been in recovery. But your room's ready now." The lights went out. When they came back on, the bed was empty. And the door said, 330, someone in the walls. Story 5, the AD said, quiet room, shared house, $400 a month. No pets, no parties, no questions. I should have known, but rent was bleeding me out. And this place was dirt cheap. The guy who showed me around Tom Burley said 10 words. Just handed me the keys, pointed to my room, and reminded me, lock your door at night, always. I thought he was just paranoid. The house was old. Floors creaked like they had bones. The walls were thin, but the Wi-Fi worked, and the bed didn't have bugs. That was enough for me. The first night I heard it. Scratching. Light, sporadic light, something shifting inside the walls. I figured it was rats or the house settling. Old places breathe, right? But by the third night, the sound changed. It wasn't scratching anymore. It was breathing, too steady to be random, rhythmic, controlled. I pressed my ear to the drywall behind the headboard. There was a pause, then a whisper. Don't sleep facing this wall. I bolted upright, heart hammering. I told Tom the next morning. He stared at me for a moment, then walked back into his room and closed the door without saying a word. Later that day, I saw the wall from the other side. In the hole were no vents, no closet, just smooth drywall, too thin for anyone to be inside. That night I slept facing the window. The whisper came again, but then laughter, not loud, not maniacal. Worse, it was pleased. By the end of the first week, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Doors opened without sound. The kitchen light flicked on when I walked in, even though it didn't have a sensor. My toothpaste had tiny holes poked in the tube. My socks, one by one, started disappearing. Tom didn't talk, he just stared at the walls. One night I caught him whispering into the bathroom mirror. I thought he was on the phone until he said, he doesn't know the name yet. We're fine until he does. I moved out the next morning, packed my things, left the key on the kitchen table. But when I stepped out the front door, I was in the hallway. Inside, back in the house. Same key in my hand, same packed bag. I tried again, door, hallway. But now, it knew my name. James, you heard us too early. Now we have to keep you. I screamed. No one came. I haven't seen Tom in 2 days. The rooms are rearranging now. Doors lead to different places. The kitchen's gone. My window shows only drywall now, smooth white like the inside of a cell. They've started talking more often. Through the vents. From the power outlets. Sometimes from the floorboards under my feet. Whispers overlapping. Male and female. Some crying. Some laughing. Some still learning to speak. They tell me things. About the last guy who tried to burn the house down. About the woman who slept in the bathtub for 6 weeks before she disappeared into the drain. About the one who learned the house's true name and how it sealed his mouth shut. They tell me I'll be a wall soon too. Part of the insulation. Still breathing but never speaking again. Last night I found a new message scratched into my bedroom floor. The walls are made of people who tried to leave. And below that, you're next, Jane. Not my mirror. Story 6, I noticed it the day after I moved in. Just a flicker. Brushing my teeth. I leaned forward toward the mirror and my reflection didn't. It hesitated, only for a second, but it was enough to make me freeze, foam bubbling at the corner of my mouth. Then it caught up, matching me exactly. Same posture, same movement. I chalked it up to exhaustion. Moving boxers all day, crappy sleep. But that night, it happened again. This time, I waved my hand in front of my face. The reflection lagged less than a second behind, then smiled a little wider than I had. I slammed the bathroom door and didn't go back in until morning. I told myself it was a lighting issue, an optical illusion. Mirrors can do that. right? By the third day, the reflection wasn't even trying to sink. I lifted my right hand. It lifted its left. I turned my head. It stared forward. Then, without me moving, it blinked. I took the mirror off the wall, just yanked it down. Heart thudding. Behind it, drywall. Nothing weird. I put the mirror face down in the hall closet. Thought it was over, until I found it back on the wall the next morning. Perfectly rehung, not a scratch. I live alone. I stood in front of it for nearly 10 minutes, refusing to move. Neither did it, just stared back. Unblinking. Same clothes, but not me. Then, it raised its hand. Slow, deliberate. Pressed a finger against the glass from the inside. Booked a motel for the night. Tried to tell a friend. He laughed. Said maybe I was just having one of those weeks. When I came back the next day, the mirror was gone. Not broken. Not removed. Just not there. Only a blank space where it had hung. Wall smooth as if nothing had ever been mounted. I thought maybe I'd imagined it all. Maybe I never had a mirror. That night, as I brushed my teeth in the darkened hallway using my phone camera as a guide, the screen, I turned my head and saw the mirror again on the wall behind me. I hadn't brought it back, I hadn't even looked at it, but there it was. And the reflection wasn't alone. Behind my mirror double stood a figure. No face, just a silhouette. Like a person pressed behind frosted glass. It placed a hand on my reflection's shoulder, and the reflection smiled. That was 2 nights ago. Since then, the mirror has changed. It shows things from my past, my old bedroom. People I haven't seen in years. I watched myself as a child playing in a sandbox that was torn down when I was 9. Yesterday I saw my father. He's been dead for 11 years. He looked right at me through the glass, then turned and walked away into the mirrored world. Now, the reflection tries to talk. Its mouth moves, mimicking words I'm not saying. Whispers I can't hear. But last night I understood it. Just one word, whispered from the glass as I walked past. Switch. The smart thing in the attic. Story 7, I bought the smart thermostat because it was on sale. The reviews said it learned your schedule, adjusted automatically. Could even send alerts to your phone if something was wrong with your system. It was perfect for someone who hated coming home to a cold house. Installation was easy. Mount to connect Wi-Fi. App paired in seconds. But the first weird thing happened that night. I was lying in bed when the app pinged. Attic temperature, 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Possible fire risk. I didn't even know there was a sensor in the attic. I checked. No smoke, no smell, no fire. The attic was empty. A little warm, sure, but nowhere near 109. I reset the system. The next night, same ping, attic temperature critical. Please investigate. And now a new option had appeared in the app. Enable listening. I didn't know what it meant, but curiosity won. At first, just silence, then thump, like something heavy dropping above my bedroom. I jumped out of bed and climbed the attic ladder with a flashlight in one hand and a wrench in the other. Nothing. Except the insulation had been disturbed, like something had crawled across it. I checked the app again. Attic listening disabled, but I hadn't turned it off. The following day, the thermostat adjusted itself to a setting I never programmed. 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Presence detected. I live alone. I contacted the manufacturer. They told me there was no listening feature, no temperature alerts from attics, and no way for the device to determine presence. They asked me to send photos. The next morning, my email inbox was full. Dozens of messages from my own account, each with the same subject. Let it stay. I hadn't sent them. The attachments were blurry photos of the attic, from angles I couldn't have taken. Some from above. Looking down, I stopped using the app, unplugged the Wi-Fi, manually set the heat, but the thermostat kept working. Still adjusted itself. Still sent messages. Then it started talking. Soft clicks, bursts of static, until one night, as I passed the hallway. It's warmer when you don't fight. The voice wasn't robotic. It was mine. Recorded. Distorted. I tried removing it, ripped the unit off the wall, cut the power to the entire house. It didn't matter. The next morning it was reinstalled, perfectly mounted, running. Now the messages don't stop. We like this shell. Warmth is thought. Thought is survival. Attic is womb. Attic is cradle. The ceiling creaks at night and not from settling. Pacing above. Always above. I boarded the attic shut. Nailed it from the outside. Covered it in tape and furniture. The app still pings. You've made it angry. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it started with the thermostat. I think it needed a voice, a connection, a presence to ride in on. I'm writing this now with my phone on airplane mode, but it just vibrated anyway. New alert. Listening enabled. Welcome home. End of story 7 to 700 words. Under the tracks. Story 8, we went looking for a shortcut. That's how it always starts. My friend Tyler and I had been exploring abandoned parts of the subway system for years. Side tunnels, forgotten maintenance rooms, sealed stairwells that still echoed when you stomped. We always stayed above the 3rd level, always near known exits. Until last week, we found a rusted hatch behind a torn-ed panel on the downtown sea line. Just a simple wheel lock and peeling yellow paint that said nitrogen monoxide entry survey pending. That meant it was real old, and likely untouched. We came back at 2:12 a.m. with gloves, bolt cutters, and headlamps. The tunnel beyond the hatch sloped downward. Concrete walls. No graffiti, no trash, no rat droppings, which was the first red flag. Every tunnel has some sign of life. After 15 minutes of descending, we hit a junction, a small room with 2 branching corridors. One marked pump station in faded black paint. The other had no label. Just a faint outline of something scratched into the wall, a shape like a crooked hand. Tyler went right, toward the pump station. I took the other. The air felt wrong, not damp, not dry. Just still, like something holding its breath. I kept walking, trying to act braver than I felt. Then my headlamp caught something, a mirror, leaning against the wall at the end of the corridor. No frame, just a tall pane of glass, freestanding. The reflection looked off. Like the tunnel behind me was too dark, even though my headlamp was shining straight into it. I turned around. Behind me, the tunnel was empty. But in the mirror, a shape stood at the end of the hall, not moving, long-limbed, blurred, like someone standing behind warped glass. I spun back, nothing, looked again. Still there in the mirror. Closer now, and then I realized it wasn't standing, it was crawling, low to the ground, moving without sound. Closer. Every time I blinked, I ran, sprinting back toward the junction, yelling for Tyler Barr, but I didn't find him. Just his flashlight, crushed, still flickering. Something whispered behind me, not in words, in sound. Metal dragging on concrete. I bolted back up the incline toward the hatch, heart hammering so hard I nearly blacked out. I made it. The hatch was still open, but the tunnel behind me wasn't empty anymore. The lights in my headlamp flickered, and I saw it just for a second. A face stretched too long, joints bent wrong, eyes like pits full of gravel. It didn't scream, it just raised one hand, crooked, like the symbol on the wall, and mimicked my breathing. Every inhale I took, it slightly off time, slightly too loud. I slammed the hatch shut and ran like hell. I haven't seen Tyler since. I went back the next day. There's no hatch behind the panel anymore, just a smooth wall, no cracks, no rust, no bolts, like it was never there. But sometimes, in the tunnels, when a train isn't running and it's late enough, I hear it. My breathing echoed back. 1 second too late. Live feed story 9. It started as a joke. I set up a 24-hour live stream of my apartment. Nothing fancy, just a static webcam mounted in the corner, watching my kitchen and living room. I called it Alone Cam. The idea was simple. I lived alone, barely left the house, and figured someone might find it oddly satisfying to watch the quiet. At first it was boring, just me making coffee, typing, pacing. Then the comments started. Who was that woman last night? Thought this was called Alone Cam. Dude, she was standing behind you at 3:17 a.m. I ignored it, figured they were trolling. But curiosity got to me. I scrubbed back through the footage. 3:17 a.m. while I was sleeping in my room off. There was a movement, something subtle near the edge of frame. Then, unmistakable, a face, partially visible in the hallway mirror, pale, unblinking. Watching, I rewound again and again. Every time I hit play, she moved a little differently. Not a glitch, not a compression artifact. Something in the video, reacting to being watched. That night I kept the lights on, didn't sleep, checked the stream every hour. Nothing. Next morning I found a note in the chat. She doesn't like being ignored. I paused to stream, thought about taking the whole thing down. Instead, I deleted the last 3 days of footage, went about my day. But when I got back that night, my apartment felt off. Subtle things. Chair pulled back from the table. Coffee mug I hadn't used now empty in the sink. Worst of all, the camera was on, live streaming, but I hadn't turned it back on. And the angle had changed. Now it faced the hallway, the mirror. I turned off the stream, unplugged the webcam. I even smashed the mirror just in case. But the next morning, the feed was live again. Same mirror, unbroken. And in the reflection, someone standing behind me. But when I turned, I was alone. I shut everything down, ripped out the modem, tossed the webcam. It didn't matter. The stream stayed online. Viewers kept commenting. She's closer tonight. She copied your yawn at 4:06. Try blinking. See if she matches you. Then they stopped commenting altogether. Chat disabled, stream locked. View count climbing on its own. Every time I tried to access the back end, it redirected me to a login screen I didn't create. The username already filled in, Yuri and Camno, no password prompt. Just a live feed. And now, the mirror is gone. Just a blank hallway. And a door at the end. One I've never seen before in my own apartment. The door is closed on screen, but when I turn around, it's wide open. The room that wasn't there. Story 10, I know every inch of my apartment. I've lived here for 7 years. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, tiny galley kitchen, hall, closet I turned into a pantry. No basement, no attic. So when I stepped out of the shower this morning and saw the extra door in the hallway, I thought I was dreaming. It was clean, fresh, white paint, same doorknob as the others. But it didn't belong. I stood there, towel around my waist, dripping on the floor, just staring at it. Eventually I opened it. The room was empty. carpeted window facing the alley. Nothing unusual, except for the fact that I had never seen it before. I backed out, closed the door, and texted my landlord. "Did someone remodel something without telling me?" He replied instantly. "That room's always been there. You signed a lease for a 2-bed. No, absolutely not. I checked my paperwork. Sure enough. 2B, even the building's website had it listed that way now, but I know it wasn't. I don't care how certain I am of anything else in life. I know that door wasn't there yesterday." I called my friend Mike, asked if he remembered helping me move in. "Yeah," he said. "You were hyped to have a second bedroom. Said it'd be your writing room. I don't write. Never have." But sure enough, when I went back in there, a small desk was now in the corner, wooden vintage looking dustless, and a typewriter sat on top. I didn't own a typewriter. It was warm. I didn't touch it. Didn't stay long. Instead, I asked my mom to send photos from when she visited last Christmas. She'd taken one in the hallway, in front of what was then just a blank wall. But the photo had changed. Now, behind me was the door. Same as now. Same fresh paint. The handle was turned just slightly ajar, and a hand was visible through the crack, thin, gripping the edge of the door frame. I swear it hadn't been there before. I haven't opened the door again, but I can hear the typewriter now, clicking away behind the wall. Slow, deliberate taps, like it's writing something very carefully. Last night I barricaded the door with furniture, wedged chair under the knob, shoved the couch in front of it. Felt silly, but safer. This morning the chair and couch were back in place, where they belonged in the living room. The door, gone. Just smooth wall. No knob, no frame. As if it had never been there at all. I opened my camera roll. The photo of the door with the hand. Now blank, just me. Smiling in front of a clean white wall. No second bedroom. No desk. No typewriter. But I can still hear the clacking. And tonight, when I turned off the lights to sleep, I heard a soft knock from the wall. Just 3 times, steady and from my dark living room. I swear, I heard the carriage return on the typewriter.